Okay, it's just preparing to go there. 1 second. It says it's streaming live. Oh, quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our genealogy desk in the last week. Now we've got a cadre of panelists today, and let me bring them up on the screen so you can see all of them. My cousin Russ is here. Hillary, our gal from Wales. Diana, our gal. There she is. Yep. And then we were later going to have the Randy Seaver portion of the show. It's all good. Hi, Robin. Good to see you this morning. And Cousin Dave has his webcam turned off, but that's okay. And I do want to say hello to all of you who are attending. I understand that we're going to have some rough weather in the Tennessee and Georgia part of the United States. There are tornado warnings, and one of them is supposed to affect the CNN newsroom, which is one of our main news outlets here in the United States. But I just hope for the best. Michelle's here from Omaha, and Pat Jackson from Kentucky. Hi, Susan from Woodstock. The Woodstock. Yes, everyone stay safe. That's a good point. There's Myra from up in Wyoming. Southern Louisiana for Cheryl. So good to see everybody here this morning. Okay, when we were in the green room, I asked the panelists, what question should I ask today? And so this is the question. Other than census and birth, marriage, and death records of any sort, what record sets have you been deep diving into lately? And let's start first with Randy Seaver portion of the show. Okay, Cousin Russ?
So my favorite records are probate records.
Okay.
And the reason, and I just lost video here.
Okay.
And I was going to talk about this in a bit, but so my favorite is probate records because you get a lot of relationship information from probate records.
Yes.
Not everybody has probate records, but in colonial times and before 1900, maybe half or 2/3 of the people had an estate and had probate records, and so you can find a lot there. And the neat thing is, if the guy's old or the gal is old, mom is old, they'll name their married daughters, and that may be the only place you get a married surname, or you get a evidence of a relationship between a married woman and her parents.
So why am I looking at a land record, a deed?
Well, the other place that happens is in land records.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so I just today posted, less than an hour ago, my weekly amanuensis Monday, the deed of Obadiah and Hannah Sawtell of Groton, Massachusetts, to their son, Hezekiah Sawtell. Now, what did that do? That gave me, assuming Hannah is Hezekiah's mother, and I think she is, that gave me relationships. Gave me Obadiah and Hannah. It also gave me Hannah and Hezekiah relationship. And there's some logic that goes with Hannah being the only wife of Obadiah. They married young. She had 13 kids. Hezekiah was the 13th. But then the last record I had of Hannah before I found these deeds was her father's probate record in 1707 that named her as Hannah Sawtell.
Okay.
That's not in the deed, obviously.
No, obviously.
So I had no clue when she died. But finding this deed and two others she was in 3 deeds in the
Mhm.
1725 and 1726 timeframe,
Mhm.
giving her approval of selling the land to a son and another person, I think another son.
Mhm.
And it's selling, not giving in these cases. So you can construct a scenario where Obadiah is 76 at the time that this happens,
Mhm.
and he wants to pass on the land to his son, who's only 21 or 22, but just married,
Mhm.
and he does in these deeds. And so
And it
now this,
wasn't cheap. He didn't sell it for
well,
$1, like is frequently seen elsewhere.
exactly, yeah. And so Hezekiah came up with 300 pounds of good and current money
Mhm.
of New England, and you can see the in purple the description of the land, and the description of the land then leads you to, okay, where could this be? Okay, no, it's in Groton in 1725.
Mhm.
Groton is different now than it was in 1725, but 30 acres more or less, one parcel lying on the west side of the old country road and containing about 22 acres. Now, it said that country road was the road leading to Lancaster, which is south of Groton.
Mhm.
And it was the next town south of Groton at the time. Now there's 3 or 4 towns in between.
Okay.
And then the other parcel was on the east side of the country road and contained 8 acres.
Mhm.
The house is on the west side. If you scroll up just a little bit, up, I'm sorry,
Up.
down, whatever. Yeah, I want to see above.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Being in the township of Groton on both sides of the country road,
Oh, yes.
leading to Lancaster with a house in the barn, and somewhere it says about the the description is right down below. Okay. Bounded easterly to the highway, northeasterly by the brook in Broad Meadow, as far as to the place where the ditch meets the brook, westerly by meadow of Jonathan Page, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's clues there as to where it is. And
Okay,
so
just a minute.
I'm
Just a
looking for the,
minute. Cousin Russ is telling me timeout. What's happening, Russ?
Recording.
Forgot to hit the
oh, no.
recording button. It's being recorded over on YouTube directly, so we're good.
Really good.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So the clues now are the road leading south from Groton toward Lancaster
Mhm.
and near a brook. Okay. And 22 acres. How big is 22 acres? Can you do it in your head? I can't. I looked on Google, and it's something like 1,000 feet by 1,000 feet if it were square.
Okay.
I don't think it's square. I think it's rectangular probably. And so it's probably something like 500 feet by 2,000 feet. And I think the 2,000 feet is north and south. And so we can go then to the map and find the, and there is Groton. And so right in the middle, if you zoom, the road the big road in the middle is the road from Groton to Lancaster.
Okay.
And then you see the brook running right across Groton.
That's the James Brook. That's not a guy's name necessarily. It's the brook. It's a waterway.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a brook. And then the road just to the south of the brook
Groton Shirley Road?
The Groton is the road that dimensions running through the property, I think.
Okay.
So I think the house was probably about where that blue dot is, just south of that. There's now a electric lines running through there. That's why that's not forest.
Yes.
I think you can see them when you really zoom in.
Yeah.
But 500 feet in from the road is about where the margin is on your map right now, and 2,000 feet north and south from the brook down is quite a ways. It's off this map. So
yeah.
All that land is what he got from his father, who got a grant in 1670 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with meets and bounds when they're talking about swampland and
Yep.
over by so-and-so's house, and here's where the brook is. And you and I have property under the system of township and range, which are indeed square parcels. So we're trying to overcome our thinking of how they parceled out land or surveyed land aside from these 13 colonies and apply it here. So I think that this kind of work is interesting, trying to figure out where is that spot of land now. These are big power lines coming through here.
Yeah, that's a major trunk.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And this is relatively unsettled. You know, that you can see the houses are well spaced out. You know,
Yeah.
they're on acre lots instead of 22 acre lots, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe
mm-hmm.
half acre lots, whatever. Yeah. So, but
Very.
you can see why they settled there. Also, it's on a road. It's near a brook, which provides water
For the crops and
maybe
cattle.
transport. The river, the Nashua River, is off to the left down the brook.
Okay.
The brook rises off to the right, and so it may provide some transport if needed. The Nashua River is really interesting because it comes out of New Hampshire south off the Merrimack.
Here it is.
And then winds its way through all these towns of north central Massachusetts.
Sure does wind its way.
And
look at that.
Your map isn't big enough. Yeah.
I hear you.
It goes all the way to Leominster and rises in Leominster. The source is just south and west of Leominster, which is 4 or 5 towns over.
Mm-hmm.
And Leominster's my father's hometown.
Okay, cool.
So I have a lot of roots here. I've been through some of this. I haven't been through this part here because I just found this deed, so I didn't know where the Sawtells were.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up in Townsend, which is off to the west of it, a couple towns.
Mm-hmm. Pumpkin Brook. Cute. I love this. So in this land record, you have evidence of a husband-wife relationship and a father-son relationship. Well, and the mother,
and a minimum date for the death of the mother. Yeah.
Yeah, we can at least put it in brackets.
After 1726.
Yes,
yeah.
And sometimes that's all the evidence we have for a long time until we find something that directly states her death.
No one has ever found anything after 1707. So I just did. I've advanced the knowledge a bit on her.
Yay, good for you.
But it's in records like these that you find that information, by Obadiah doesn't have a will, but it's apparent that they sold the land to the kids and to other people to fund their life for the rest of their lives. And they probably stayed in the house with Hezekiah. He was the youngest son, didn't have any babies yet. It's a big house. They had 13 kids, so it's got probably 4 or 5 bedrooms. And it's worth 300 pounds, the whole shooting match. So,
Randy, is Hezekiah by any chance have a title of deacon?
Maybe, I don't know. Hezekiah was born 1713. 1703, I'm sorry.
Dave?
Hello there. I've got 2 or 3 Hezekiahs, and the one that I landed on was Deacon, but I don't know about his date. And they're all in Groton, so if this is not Randy's Sawtells, it's collateral at least.
So you're cousins?
Oh, many times.
I think many times, yeah.
Oh, you New England people.
We keep finding each other.
We all lived in the same town, and there was no way to get out. But the Deacon was 1725 to 1770, and there's a few others, but
probably
get back
then.
to Randy. Yeah, Obadiah's one of the ancestors.
Yeah.
But I just thought I
Wow.
would brag that I can say something about being related to Randy Seaver.
I think that's
The
awesome.
Randy Seaver.
Hey, there's about 10 of us.
Dave, would you check your mic setting, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's private chat.
I
Okay.
can't get to him privately. Sorry, I tried.
Oh, that's interesting. All panelists. Okay. All right. So I would like to know from the community if you've looked at land records, and while you're talking to me or typing to me about land records that may have been useful to you, let's talk with Diana, because Diana, you've been down a deep rabbit hole. And
I have.
you know what Randy has shown us is meets and bounds. It's your land record, meets and bounds, or is it under the?
Oh, it's not as easy as that. I'm in Ohio.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! You've got
Yeah,
like
and
umpteen different methods.
right, and many of the deeds that I've been looking at. I'm in Jefferson County, Ohio right now. I was looking for Christopher Barnhouse, and it turns out that the index for the early Jefferson County land deeds are alphabetical sections, so all the B's are together. Well, Gary had Blackburns in Jefferson County. So I thought, well, if I'm going through the index, I might as well look for both Blackburns and Barnhouses, same
Right.
index. I'm up to 150 so far, and I've only gone up to 1846
Oh, you
from
have a ways to.
1808.
Oh my gosh!
That's not even all of volume 1. I haven't even finished the volume 1 index, and there's 4 indexes. So I've got a lot to go. So what I started doing was started a spreadsheet to track what I'm finding so I can go back and look in detail at the ones I need. But the one that I was looking for was proof that the Christopher Barnhouse in Jefferson County, Ohio, is the same Christopher Barnhouse that was married in Loudon, Virginia, and had his first child there. And the third deed that I looked at is for a purchase by Christopher Barnhouse from Jacob Champer. And Jacob Champer bought his through the General Land Office, so the BLM records, so I can see that one there. So I have the exact description of it. And he bought that one in 1813. But it says specifically in the introduction of the deed that it's Christopher Barnhouse of Loudon County, Virginia.
Oh, thank
so I
heavens.
know it's the same guy.
Yay!
Yes. So that was the third one on the list, but then I've kept going and I've got 150 more. But another interesting one I found was just a short time later, he sold part of his property. Christopher Barnhouse and Rosina, his wife, sold to John Barnhouse and Margaret, his wife, which I thought was an interesting way to put it, because normally the purchaser's wife isn't listed. The wife only has to sign for the sale. But then when you read through the whole thing, there's some very strange provisions in this one.
Oh.
Basically, the sale is from Christopher to his son, John, which it says, my son, John. So I know John is his son. And then it says, but John and Margaret may not sell or dispose of any part during their lifetime. It will then be vested in the legal heirs of John and Margaret, who may sell or divide as shall appear most practicable to them, but not to any of his wife's assigns.
Oh
so
my
apparently,
gosh.
Dad, Christopher didn't care for John's wife's family.
Daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to specify
one of the strangest things I've seen.
To specify that he couldn't sell it is that's really overreaching. I guess he was worried about the stability of a home place.
Yeah, and it was interesting because John and Margaret had already moved to Indiana at that point in time.
Mhm.
And actually, John died 9 years later, just a year before his father died, because in his father's will, it mentions his divided equally among his children, with one share going to the children of his son John, deceased. So John
Mhm.
died a year before Dad, and
Oh.
the it's just a very weird thing. So I'm sorting all of that out. At the same time, I'm looking at the others, but my spreadsheet is very helpful to me.
So
So
you're
I've got it
using a spreadsheet to organize these 150 deeds
that
and
will
what
get
they possibly state.
right, because I've got the buyer, the seller, the date, the book page, and image number. And then I've got a brief description of it. If it's if it's in um, the land survey system, then I've got the section, township, range, and aliquots and whatever.
Mhm.
But most of them say it's in section such and such, but it's this part, and then it describes it by meets and bounds.
Okay.
So
And
selling part, it's instead of having the normal aliquot parts that we're used to, it has a meets and bounds description of what part of that section it
that's
is.
like mixing
So it's
metaphors.
oh yeah, so that's why I just did a brief summary for now. And oh, and that one that was by Christopher to his son,
Mhm.
it was for $420 plus love, natural affection, and diverse other valuable considerations.
Boy, that
They had a
there's a
very
lot of
strange relationship.
yeah, very. And I
Well,
don't
now,
call that going rate of $420. I don't know if it's a
no,
going
because he,
rate.
he sold the other properties around the other properties sold around that time were for $200 or $300 because this was only 20 acres.
Yeah, there's
So
something
it's yeah,
inequitable
but it's
there.
very weird, very weird. But this
Okay.
family will take a while to sort out, but it's
Apparently.
fun.
But boy, did
And
you answer your research question because you wanted to know if it was the same fellow that was from Loudoun County, Virginia. And it was.
right,
Wow.
it led me to his will, which I also have now. So
That's excellent. So there were
because I
more
found out when he died.
clues. There were more
Oh yeah,
there were more questions answered in that land record than we would have anticipated. That's incredible.
yes.
All
Yes,
right.
and I'm having so much fun, but I have so much to do.
Now, where are you finding these land records? I think
These are on
Randy
Family
wasn't.
Search.
It was a Family Search as well for you, wasn't it, Randy? Yeah. First
Yeah,
priority
so
was index to probate and index to wills for microfilming. Then they microfilmed wills. Finding probate records microfilmed was a lower priority and land records lower than that, except for some places like Eastern Germany, like Dresden and Leipzig. That's all that the government would let them microfilm in the early days of microfilming. So, yeah, you got to get what you can get. But now there's so much getting to be gotten. How's that?
I know it's wonderful, and now the harder part is going back because Christopher was supposedly a Hessian soldier in the Revolutionary War,
What
and
was the
stayed in
surname?
Virginia.
What was the,
Barnhouse,
okay.
Barnhouse,
That would
or
be very interesting
Burnhouse,
to,
or Barnhouse.
yeah,
Yeah,
to
but
figure
I
it out.
found several records in Germany, but not for that I can identify as Christopher, and I
Yeah,
can't read German, so
I hear
but
you. I have a new
it's
old book of a German calendar, and I can read hemorrhoid. That's one of the few words I can read. And rheumatism looks like rheumatism. So, yeah.
okay. I can read Danish script, but I can't read German script yet. So I'm
I hear
working on it.
I hear you.
But yeah, but anyway, I've been in this rabbit hole for about 2 weeks now and expect to be here a bit longer.
Well, let's go look and see what Cousin Russ is finding from the community response. So go for that, Russ.
Francis says, I'm doing the same as Diana, making an Excel spreadsheet from the deeds index and finding and downloading each deed from Family Search and using the spreadsheet to keep up with the ones that I have found. For the more important ones, I am transcribing into Google Docs as Randy is doing. My deeds are in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you, Diana. And
Yes.
and that is, what do you do when you are reading the documents that you mentioned and you found something that didn't sound right, or why did they not mention? What do you do with that information?
On my spreadsheet, I have a column that says special. And that's where I make a note to myself that, okay, on my first review of this document, I see something weird. It needs to be followed up. So that's going to be my next step, is the special column, because that's not every deed. But I have the first purchase by Christopher Barnhouse. And then the second purchase, Christopher Barnhouse as trustee. He and another guy bought the land that they built the schoolhouse and meeting house for all denominations. And then another one says, this one is for coal rights. This is for the Blackburn side, between brothers. So look into that. But I have 20 of them that I've made notes like that on. But those are the ones that I'll go back to first
But
to totally transcribe and follow up.
the reason why I asked is I have found through some stuff that I've been doing this past week or two that the wording becomes very important, and to do something with the wording that does not make sense. For an example, a couple of newspaper articles that I have read only mentions the mother, does not mention the father.
Mm-hmm.
So what is going on there, and what do you do with that tidbit that you recognize as you're reading through these documents, just like you did? I like that, what you did. I would put it in a to-do list.
Mm-hmm. That's her to-do list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
at this point it is. Yeah.
that's fine. And but that's what I think we sometimes reading, there's tidbits hidden in what is written down somehow or not, and it's worth following up on.
I have a separate column for wife of seller interviewed, because at this time period, the wife had to be interviewed separately to give up her dower rights. And so I have a column that says Rachel interviewed separately, whatever. And so I can see immediately that the wife was interviewed and who the wife was, because it always gives her name. So that's another thing that I wanted to make note of in all of these records. And then if it gives any other relationships, if it says that they lived someplace other than Jefferson County, I make note of that. Or if it says what town in Jefferson County. Some of the later ones I'm getting to now are town lots in Steubenville. And so I've made note that they live there.
So, town lots, that makes me think of New England, where they would have a house in town and the property that they farmed was out of town. I don't know if that's...
And that's what it looks like, because the house lots, the town lots are very small.
Yeah.
And so they still have their farm lot outside town in many cases.
Okay,
and
so
that's what my grandparents did.
Yeah. Okay, so Sue Tolbert saying she has been looking at Oklahoma Territory land lotteries and land records. What have you got, Cousin Russ? Is it more on land records?
Michael said, I've recently started to learn and research land records. I ordered copies of from the New Jersey archives, found via an online search of their records. I am now transcribing them to determine location in early West Jersey and correlate to other mentions in my early ancestors in New Jersey. I'm studying boundary changes currently.
That could make a difference as to which courthouse things will be recorded in. Excellent. Okay. And we're talking about land records right now. And let's see. Any other mention? We've got a lot of other topics coming up in the chat. I'm trying to keep up with the land records concept before we switch. Francis says, I'm doing the same as Diana, making an Excel spreadsheet.
I mentioned that one, but she also followed up that says, I have also used Meets and Bounds program to create plots from some of the deeds and also from some of the survey plots so that I can combine adjacent plots.
So are we talking deed mapper
Yes.
there? Let's give folks information about that. Let me pull this up and share my screen.
That is for Francis.
Yeah, Deed Mapper is one of them, and it works really well. You can actually figure out how big things are. One of my experiences, the only time I went to the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne,
Yes.
in one of the rooms, there was a group of people from the local society from Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
using Deed Mapper to make little bits of paper to tape onto a map of their county to identify where people lived.
Okay.
And that was 10 years ago now. I hope they're done by now.
I hope they're done. Well, and it changes over time, but if we think also of history geo, I'll try to bring that up. Here's a suggestion from let me give you this link, Cousin Russ, to share with everyone. About taking Google Earth as an optional background and figure out doing exactly what Randy was trying to do. Let me pull up History Geo.
And Pat, it also helps that I have an atlas of Jefferson County, which I intend to use to plot all of this stuff
Okay,
onto.
Cool. So you're going to be busy.
Yes.
That's for sure. Okay, History Geo's focus is who are the first landowners. Once it could have been, instead of looking for landowner maps by township, imagine what it would be like to have a single interactive map containing over 12 million landowners among 30 states. All 29 of the public land states plus the continental US. So what is a public land state? Do we know that definition? Let's talk about that. Any feedback here?
Yeah, it's all the states that were not, where the land was sold by the government, not previously owned. The colonies are not public land states, and certain other states had already distributed their land, but the rest of them are public land states. But Texas is not, and I think Hawaii is not, and certain other ones that were part of the colonies, like West Virginia, are not public land states.
Right.
And the rest of them are, and Ohio was the trial, so it's partially the public land.
You guys are a
survey
mess up there.
Everywhere else.
You've got the
there's 7 different
Firelands, you've
surveys.
got the Virginia Military District. I took an advanced land records course at Salt Lake Institute from Rick and Pam Zayer. And Rick, of course, is deep into Ohio research. And my head was just spinning by the end of that week to try to, I mean, if you could understand that if you're going to have, you would like it to be that a state has one survey system. That didn't happen in Ohio. Yeah.
After Ohio, I want to go back to Iowa for a
Yeah,
while.
I would think so. All right, so their single interactive map does include Texas. It's a big exception, but that's okay.
But that's where it lives.
And so you put a name in, and you do have to pay, but you'll see the hit list. So let me hope that it comes up. So We can let out Arizona first landowners, but definitely Kentucky, um, yeah, and Indiana, these make sense. So when you then, so they found the surname Froman has been placed on a map in Kansas or in Kentucky, and then that's when you need to subscribe. Now, one of the interesting things, Randy kept mentioning this is due east, or my family is, the other side of the family is farther west. Looking at who the neighbors are is really super important, because if you're going to marry somebody, you're not going to go 3 counties away, which is what's so tricky about Ohio and Loudoun County. Although if you knew where Loudoun County is in Virginia, you'd understand the migration back and forth is easy there. Yeah, I agree with Sheila. I have to look, if I do any work in Ohio, she says, she has to use a map showing the various land divisions. And Marcia says she uses History Geo to figure out where a parcel of land is located. She can then identify the original owners and potential neighbors to figure out where her family was in that area. Okay, all right, so let me give you this link. Well, it's just historygeo.com. I'm doing better on getting through to the internet today, Russ. All right, we have, let me go to Bureau of Land Management just to finish up this part of the discussion. So I will
Because
type in
that
BLM.
first property that
Pardon?
Christopher bought, the first
Yes.
property that Christopher bought, he bought from somebody who had gotten it from the president, as he
Yeah.
put it, but it was in BLM.
Yeah. All
So
right.
I have the description from them.
Okay, so the first clue that you might have, because we work from the present and go back in time, the first clue that you might have that your person obtained property from the federal government of the United States would be, one, it has to be in a public land state, not the 13 colonies. 2, all of a sudden he's paying taxes on the land, but you have no deed recorded in the county. Now that's peculiar until you realize that the deed came indeed from the President of the United States. It was only during the middle of Andrew Jackson's term that there ended up being so many land transactions where the federal government would create a patent, a land patent, officially transferring homestead land, cash entry sale land, desert land claim land from the federal government to an individual person, not a land development or a land speculation consortium. So that is recognized by the county, and then it goes forward with, now the county is charging taxes for that land. The Bureau of Land Management website that we have up here has a number of things. A lot of people get pretty excited because they get the final patent, a copy of the final patent. And as I say, prior to that middle term of Andrew Jackson's presidency, it actually was signed by the president. And what you have is a digital image. This is a major project of the Bureau of Land Management to digitize those. You also had some other interesting things that we don't think about very much. The survey plats and field notes. You know, you got the Louisiana Purchase and you got to develop the land, right? And, but you send surveyors out, and they are the ones that help establish from this principal meridian point the layout of the land. But as you notice from this map here, the surveyors also make note about waterways and obstructions like, the Rocky Mountains, etc. And so that's kind of interesting. That cadastral survey creates, marks, defines, and retraces or reestablishes boundaries and subdivisions of the federal lands. Tract books are also interesting, and there is an index to be able to search it by state and I should mention territory. For instance, I have ancestors here in southern or central Utah who were, and actually in Salt Lake County and also up in Ogden. But it wasn't a state yet, it was still a territory. There are the land tract books are for these states only, the eastern states of the public land. Should we do one little one little test or search for documents?
Sure.
Okay, good. We have done this several times, and we've even done a Wacky Wednesday on this. And it's that important that you need to be aware of it if you're doing U.S. research. Now, you don't have to specify a state. It can narrow it down if necessary. Sometimes I wonder about Washington State. I haven't done any research there, but I'll just put in Froman again. And show you what we get when it's all the states, okay? So the meridian and the state are where I tend to look first. This one's in Indiana for Abraham Froman. That's interesting. I know that he bought property. I didn't realize that he bought property there. Wonder if that's my Froman. Here are two individuals listed, but let me show you why. See the W? Do you know what W stands for? Warrant.
Warrant.
And what is a warrant, a land warrant? Well, when the federal government needed to pay soldiers for military service, they were cash strapped. So they would give them a script warrant. This was as late as 1850. And for 40 acres for this person. He must have been maybe a private. That's a small amount of property. So it went to the warrant holder was Ebenezer Bryant, who was probably too old and didn't want to go to this place called, where is this? Illinois. He was probably back east somewhere. And he transferred that or sold it to Anderson Froman for X amount of money. We don't know that amount. Okay. And there is a patent image, which is that final document signed by a president or his secretary.
His representative. Or his representative. This one's signed by the commissioner of the General Land Office.
Oh, okay. What year was that?
This was what year was this? It's the fifth day of the year of 1825.
Okay, all right. I can't pull up the image, it's taking forever and a day. But most people just look at the details and want the image. They never look at the related documents. These are the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another Froman that I'm aware of. These are my Fromans in a slightly different place before they get to Missouri, it looks like, Russ.
And Pat, I pulled up that related documents for Christopher Barnhouse's
Yes.
deed in Ohio.
Yeah.
And those neighbors happen to be the same people who signed his will, the
Interesting.
witnesses on his will,
Yeah.
because there's
Okay.
neighbors.
They were his neighbors, his trusted neighbors. Very good. All right. And we have done some additional work in Dear Myrtle's blog where we talk about how to go to the National Archives and actually look at the land entry file. Remind me to add that to the show notes because I don't want to look it up right now. But I want to switch gears and talk about something different, unless we have any more land record things. Okay, Sue is saying on the BLM site, which is where we are, she discovered an Ancestors War of 1812 service from the land warrant his widow used for land in Illinois. Yeah. It's pretty amazing when you get to the land entry file and you see that bounty land warrant. They're beautiful. It's like a certificate of beyond compare. They're so beautifully, the form was beautiful, all kinds of scroll work and things around the edge. Totally cool. Yeah, good. All right. What's next on our docket, Cousin Russ?
Let's see. Dave was going to. Oh, are you going to talk about USCIS records?
Yes. I first heard about this from Rich, but there's a call for action, and I would like you to participate in this. I certainly shall. I don't have ancestors who came after September 27th, 1906. But if I did, and understanding what can be found in naturalization records, I would support this move. So we fill them in on, now we'll keep you all in the dark. Yeah. This, it used to be the Immigration and Naturalization Service. Now it's USCIS. They went through a thing where they wanted to charge us an arm and a leg to somehow pull up a file that they have an index for. And the Federal Register, the daily journal of the US government, is requesting input from the public. We would like to see the records put in the National Archives. That's where records of federal government offices are archived. And aside from the fact that the USCIS has not transferred these records, we would like to support the transfer for several reasons. It reduces the cost to the public for the retrieval of a file. Secondly, the National Archives is accustomed to meeting with the public and providing these records for them. They have both in person, once we can do that again, a well-defined program and procedure to follow. If you were to go there in person and ask for the file, they have a system where the security of the file is ensured. We can't go into a textual reading room with our suitcase of stuff that briefcase that we tend to bring. That all has to be put in a locker. We cannot enter the room or leave the room without showing our National Archives ID, which we obtain showing a passport or a driver's license, some government created document. And also any papers that we take out get put in a locked green bag. And they go through those papers before they put them in the bag to ensure that no original documents have been removed from a file. So you may have photocopied, hardly ever photocopy. I've been there so long, I can't stand it. Most is done digitally. They will let you bring your camera. I've seen people come in with flatbed scanners, but any paperwork that you take, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb to protect from anyone stealing any of these papers. Imagine on a land record, prior to that halfway mark of Andrew Jackson's presidency, there have been people who want that president's signature. They've even had people who made, you wear a ring. They can ask you to remove your rings. But the person made a little alteration of the bottom side of the ring, and they cut out the signature of a president. Unbelievable what people have done and will do. So USCIS isn't equipped like that with trained staff, with the way the building's laid out, etc., to provide that kind of document security. So the whole purpose of bringing this up, and Cousin Russ has given you the link, is to have you make specific comments through the comment portal. Now, I haven't done it yet, so I'm going to click on it. But there are certain things that should be in it, and these are outlined here. But let me just show you what the comment portal looks like. These are the federal rules. Come on, come on. Oh, we're so good at having, okay. So the Homeland Security is seeking comments on how U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services can reduce administrative and other barriers within its regulations and policies. So it was requested on or before the 21st of April, but late comments will be considered. And so I want to encourage you all to participate in
And
that.
Judy said there's a deadline on that, right?
Yes. Now it's May
May
19th.
Right.
It was originally April, but they extended. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I want to compliment Linda Stufflebean.
Oh, did you want to, before you do that, do you want to get the rest of the panel answer the question of the week? We just had the Randy and Diana show.
They didn't indicate in the green room they wanted to.
Oh,
So
okay. I'm sorry.
Did you want to say anything about land records, Hillary?
I don't really use land records, particularly over here. I've not got to that point at the moment.
Okay, but you also have a longer history in your research in England of public vital records, because they go back to 1837.
Yeah.
And church records much farther back, some into the 1500s. So, okay, I can understand why, because you have a deeper history than we do here in the U.S. Okay. Robin, did you want to talk about land records?
Mine are deed records because my ancestors come from urban areas like New York.
Okay.
And, not too long ago, Family Search did an index project for New York State and created indexes for the land records that they have for New York State, which was a tremendous help to me. I just went back to it and saw, oh, look, I can find my people now.
And where on earth they are or were.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so deeds are similar to a patent, just a different terminology. It's like some states legislatures call the Court of Common Pleas something different. It's like some states don't have counties, like Louisiana has parishes, which to me, the definition of a parish is church related, but it's owing to the history, the colonial history in Louisiana. So yeah, a deed and a patent are similar documents proving that so-and-so now owns this property. There may be a lien on it because there's a mortgage, which we're accustomed to in this 21st century. But yeah, cool. I'm glad for you. Well, I hope you find some interesting oddities like Diana brought to our attention. Or maybe that they mention sons or daughters, married daughters, etc. Okay. Russ, did you want to talk about land records?
Nope.
Oh, okay, we're good. All right. So let me go back to this working with what Linda Stuffelbein has been doing. Now, we have talked in the past about the importance of county histories. Let me zoom in here a little bit. A lot of white space here. Okay. There's a new series that she's doing on county histories. And previously we looked at this book. The first one we think of is P. William Philby's Biography of American County Histories. Thank you, Cousin Russ, for holding it up. Yeah. And it's a matter of, it was published in 1985, and you got to meet Mr. Philby? Wow. That's amazing. The second place she went, well, I don't know about county histories with Catherine Wilson, but this is what she's doing. She's looking for digital versions of county histories and compiling them in this list. So here's Delaware. And apparently this one was not found. Now, that means it isn't digitized. Doesn't mean the book isn't available somewhere. We just don't know of it as being digitized. Well, we meaning Linda. Is she here?
Yes, she is.
You did 254 counties. Wow. Linda, if you have your ears on or your microphone available, raise your hand because I'd really like to talk with you. Cousin Russ could turn on your mic if you feel comfortable doing that. No thanks, she says. Okay. This is a tremendous service. Only 49 more states to go. I am just blown away by this because it saves us a tremendous amount of work. I have my Chester County, Pennsylvania book right here at my feet. When they're digital, they're optical character, they're OCR'd, which makes them a little more readily searchable, given the fact that on some of them, the letter E goes up on the typesetting. Yeah, okay. And so keep that in mind. That may help orient you to a particular state or a county within a state. So in my case, this huge book that is so heavy I can hardly lift it up, being digitized means that I have access to understanding, how the major migration groups affected the development of that county, where the major roads were, etc. And so kudos for doing this. I can't thank you enough. I think this is wonderful. Thank you, Linda. And speaking of roads, Diane Beaumont did an interesting thing for the Streets of Providence in 1806. Now, Diane has long been associated with Rhode Island research because I think it was her mom, maybe both her parents, had printed books on vital records for Rhode Island. And Diane has written the Rhode Island NGS Research in the United States booklet. It's a paperback book, 8.5 by 11. I don't know how many pages. Boy, I wish I had Rhode Island research because of the work the Beaumont family has done. So she said she was sent a list of street names established by the town council in 1806, which she's copied down below. And the trick is that she's aware of renamed streets. And this happened to have been published in 1806 on page 2 of the Providence Phoenix. And it was right after that time that Providence grew tremendously. Understanding, as Randy wanted to do, where on the face of the earth right now does an ancestor, or did an ancestor once lived, can well be accomplished with this work that Diane has done. So keep that in mind. I mean, this is a very lengthy blog post. So she'll start with the streets that were formerly Water Street, King Street, William Street, and the new street at the north end. And they're all together going to be called Main Street. So if you were there now, you'd be on Main Street, but you'd have to figure out which part began where. And she will give you a link to their open meetings portal where they have recent updates or explanations thereof. Several houses on John Street, in a charming picture of Well Street. Planet Street, named for a small state, big history. All right, okay. So there are people who are doing incredible work. It isn't just Ancestry, Find My Past, My Heritage, or what other website have I not mentioned? It's like the 40 volunteers that helped us with our WikiTree challenge and are doing it every week. So Randy, this is from the 1806 time period, so you're going to want to look at maps that are earlier if your people came there in 1750. Interesting. And you definitely need to be aware of the work that Diane and her family have done over the decades. Russ?
Yeah, talking about county history, and we talked earlier about boundaries. There's somebody very early on asked about new features on Ancestry, and I think, unless it's a plugin that I have, that Ancestry has historical U.S. county auto checker active. Do they not?
Yes, they have Randy Majors in there. Yeah.
Is that the plugin or is that from Ancestry? That's
It's from Ancestry.
Okay. Okay. And what I noticed, I knew that it's been there for a while, but under that is Enjoy Open Life Map.
I don't know what Open Life Map is.
We were talking about county history, and I'm just saying that Ancestry has some features that we may or may not want to use in this, talking about this boundary changing thing.
Yeah. Randy, well, I'm not. Our go-to thing through the 1920s was to look at the work that cartologists, is that what you call a person that does maps, that creates maps? Bill Dollarhide's work with William Thorndale on the maps for each federal census. Marion Kowalski, can you give me a link, or we'll go to the Digital Public Library of America? Thank you. I know, I keep saying Beaumont and it's Beaumont. Thank you for correcting me. All right. Yeah, I have the link to the site itself, but what shall I search for, Marion, in order to accomplish? So shall I type in county history? Oh, okay, Belmont. When I first interviewed Diane, I kept, it was when I was doing my podcast, Cousin Russ, and I'd never heard of the series of books on Rhode Island that her a family had worked on. All right, so we've got now maps. Get up to this. Here's the maps from different time periods. Create a list, whether it's text or an image. Wow, okay. Okay, so we've got this looks like a Sanborn fire map because of the coloring. Let's look at it. But not with the lettering. Let's let it come up. Okay, there we go. This is 1890. It is a fire insurance map. Okay, so let's zoom in a little. Okay. I cannot see how to make this bigger. Oh, I just zoom in like this with the roll of my mouse. All right, let's bring this. Come on, refresh. There we go. So there's a photo studio, a grocer, a jewelry store, an office, Adams, something or other, HD printing. I don't think they had high definition in 1890. Paints and wallpaper, a candy factory, a confectionery, cigar. Yes, cool. Yeah, they aren't much use for farms, are they, Diana? That's for sure. Okay. So you found county histories here, but I'm seeing maps, but that's probably just where I am. Let me type in county history and see what we get. Lafayette County history, Marshall County history, Bradford County history, Washburn County history from the Wisconsin Historical Society. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh, this is not a county history book. This is a report of the WPA, Works Progress Administration's Historical Record Survey, which is still very useful, but it's not a huge book. Anybody used historical record survey reports? They will, the ones that I've used were where they're interviewing artists, writers, etc. I have not seen, this is Depression era. Can we pull it up? The URL for this, it's from Florida Memory. So remember that the Digital Public Library is useful for coordinating what is found all over the web. All right, let's zoom in. And I cannot zoom anymore. This is a different view of it. So they're describing, oh, I have a plus sign now. Okay, it took a minute for the plus sign to come in. Tells when the county was created. Now this is because the Florida Memory Project took WPA county histories like this that describe the county. Let's go to the next page. They're dealing with the courthouse being destroyed in 1875. Let's go to the next record. I think I have to press escape to get out. Okay, we have to go back here and click again. I can't get out of it. I want to get down to that film strip portion, which is down here. Let's see what page 2 tells us. Okay, then they had an argument for 12 years as to where the county history or county seat should be. Present courthouse built in 1902, annex 1936. Mostly strawberries. Boy, is it known for strawberries. Stock raising was also a big factor. How do I get out of this mode? Click. I can just click between the two. So we have to learn navigation
Escape.
on this website.
Try escape the next time.
Oh no, I have been using escape. Doesn't work.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
a usual thing to do, though. You're right. All right, so the Digital Public Library took us to things from that. Let me go back one, see if I can find a big county history. Here's one that was published in 1955. Typically, we like them when they're older than that, but here's one 1908. Newspaper articles. Okay. Well, you don't know till you go there. Menominee. I get to say that name. All right. So something interesting has occurred today, and I want to figure out how to handle this in the future, Cousin Russ. We have had a topic posed, I think by Karen Kay, that was not on our agenda. And the question she was asking was about where, and Michelle was part of this, where should I look for bill of sales for slaves being sold or auctioned in Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee? And usually the chat stays pretty much in line with what it is we're discussing at the moment, give or take a few minutes because it takes a bit to type. But I would like to share my screen and go through the comment here as to show you how crowdsourcing is working effectively. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. She said, oh, that has to do with the recording. Okay. And I saw some more information about it, but I don't see it now. I find it difficult to answer those questions when we do have an agenda of topics. And I'd like to ask attendees, what do you think we could do to overcome this, where people are having a question and it's off topic? What could we do? I want to brainstorm how to solve this so that in finding, I want to find a way for people to submit questions, I guess, for a future discussion. Usually people just write to me, Cousin Russ. What have you got?
I have an example of just what you were talking about that came early on.
Yes.
Where there was, can we talk about Ancestry's new format for saving information? It's confusing. So that's one of those topics that we couldn't get to. And that started 3 minutes after that question was posed 3 minutes after we started.
Yeah. So what do you think we could do?
Karen K. Brown has her hand raised.
Okay. You can turn on her mic.
Owen.
Yeah. Hi,
Well,
Karen.
Hi, everybody. Well, what happened was, because she put the question in, I put an answer to where she could go find it by learn about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to respond, and then basically help her answer the question and then stay on track with what you guys were doing.
I appreciate that. So I must have missed it.
It's way back at the beginning almost, where she was asking where would she find slave records.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I put in information about Maggie Institute, where you learn about pre and post slavery records.
Okay. And Michelle gave a response to it. Oh, that's what she's working on.
Yes.
Okay. Usually there's an announcement. Oh, that's the recording thing.
So it's back like at 12:11.
Here you are. Here you are.
Yeah.
Track 3.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm not upset. I want to figure out how to be creative in entertaining topics other than what the panelists bring to the show.
I think the reason that it got into with all the panelists and all the attendees is because sometimes when you do chat, you can send a message directly to a person.
Yeah, but we've disabled that.
Right. So that's why I think she posted it for everybody to see, hoping someone would come up with an answer.
And the other problem that's part of it is that not everybody turns on all panelists and attendees. That's a selection in the two, and sometimes there's half of the conversation. Well, I see both sides, but the attendees only see half of the conversation.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I've done that. I know I've done it. We know I've done it.
That's this part that Russ is
Yeah,
talking
because I
about.
forget to change it when I first come in to include all attendees when I do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I'm trying too hard to help everybody and to deal with topics on a timely basis. Do we need to have a Google form or something, Cousin Russ, where people could submit questions for future discussion? Would that be good? I mean, I don't know if that's a solution. I honestly don't know. The Maggie thing is very timely, Karen Kay.
yes, it's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming right up.
Anybody, doesn't matter where your research is, you'll learn strategies for all kinds of research. It is excellent.
I
And
couldn't
it's virtual.
I couldn't believe it when I took the advanced, intermediate African American genealogical research course at a different institute, at Salt Lake Institute, and it has some of the same instructors as Maggie. We're pretty busy with GRIP, producing GRIP.
Right.
And so we love to hear what the technology, how the technology of Zoom, et cetera, impacts what's happening. And over at Maggie, we totally support any type of institute, genealogically speaking, because that's where we get the instructor telling us what we need to know, as opposed to our going out and watching this YouTube video and attending that webinar. We may not see where our blinders are.
Right.
And going to an institute really opens your mind. It blows your mind, doesn't it?
And I love it because as the institute, you're actually a student, so you get homework to apply what it is you're learning. So whereas with a conference, you would go sit, okay, I just learned this, but by the time you get home, you're like, okay, how was I supposed to do that?
I totally get that.
Yes.
So let's be thinking then about what to do when topics come up. Maybe I should have just been happy that you answered that question. But because the chat goes by so quickly, plus I have to try to figure out, Karen Kay, how to be nice to everybody. Like I was excluding Robin and Hillary from our land records discussion. I thought I had it okay, but there's a lot that we are doing when you're on the panel and you're a co-host or a host.
Well, with regards to the topic, I mean, one thing I would love to know, since you have panelists from over in Europe and they had slavery before the US did, I would love to know if there are any records there that maybe could help impact what we're doing here in the US.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I know. So if anybody one day,
Hillary, go for it.
One thing that could be useful is that I know there are records referring to how the people that got money when they abolished slavery in the UK. Some people that owned slaves actually got money because they owned slaves, and there are records in existence that say who received money and for how many slaves and that sort of thing. I don't know how much detail they go into. I've never needed to use them because my family were not well off enough to have been in that group, but there certainly is records, and there might be information on things like the BBC website, because they dealt with slavery in one of the programs that was looking at house history. So there might be some information on there about how you access them. And certainly the National Archives of the UK will probably have information there about what slave records they have relating to slavery.
okay.
Don't they also have indentured servants records over there at
they probably do, because there were a lot of indentured servants. I mean, my family's probably falls into the category of possibly being indentured, some of them being indentured servants. I've never actually looked to look for that thing, but there certainly was. I mean, it was although they weren't officially slaves in the living in the UK, they were people were servants for other people, and very, very poorly paid. So
yeah, at least they were paid. And there is a marked distinction between indentured servitude and slavery. We need to make that clear, that we respect and understand that.
But it's interesting that your slave owners got paid for their slaves at the end. So did ours. Because for the Civil War, if a Confederate plantation owner went and did the oath, and then as he was freed his slave, he got paid $300 so the slave could enlist in the Union Army.
And the slave didn't get anything of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a minute, you were throwing me there. I had to get through that sentence as you were saying it.
It's
I hear you. You know, unraveling history is our challenge.
Right.
And reaching out and asking questions is what Mondays with Myrt is all about.
Oh, thanks, Russ, for the indentured servant part.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything left on our docket that I missed, Cousin Russ?
Mary Roddy.
Oh, yes. Mary came up with all right. Well, first of all, I noticed that, yes, in a webinar, we can do immersive view. How many of us are there?
Please don't. I lose stuff when you do that.
Well, I'd already pushed the button. Let me unpush the button. We'll go back to gallery view. I think it will have its purposes. I don't think it's just a game to have immersive view. I think it'll be very good for classrooms. Okay, Mary Roddy, let me pull up the link. Did a marvelous blog post. I just spotted it. Okay, get the right screen here. Okay, this is her blog, and it had to do with a phenomenon that occurs over on newspapers.com, but I think it would also apply over at Fold 3. And it has to do with the fact that she started clipping news articles on an ancestor, and she noticed that other people had previously clipped the same article. And we can see that sort of phenomenon over at Fold 3. And her whole proposite, as they would say in Spanish, is that if other people have clipped it, they have an interest in that same person. And maybe you ought to see what else they've clipped on that surname. In her case, it was Swinford. I don't know how you pronounce it. And she found that in one case, one of these previous clippers had clipped 20 different articles on the family in one day. Now, it wasn't clear to me so much that she was going to start communicating with this person. She has to figure out who it actually is, but you can follow that person now over on newspapers.com. So when new articles are clipped by that person, may be relevant to your research. And that would save you a bit of time. And it says, sniffing around the content, I may be able to discern how we are connected. I can even decide that researcher X knows enough about our common family that I can click the button on their profile page to follow them, to see what other interesting content they come up with. I might be able to find out the real name of the person and see if they want to collaborate. So I thought that was an interesting phenomenon. I mean, I think I was peripherally aware of it, but I didn't take it and think through it like Mary does. She just looks at things from a different angle. Very smart gal. She's also one of the officers of the Second Life Association of Professional Genealogists chapter, and she's on the association or the APG board itself.
On Ancestry, there is a similar feature that I've started to look at, just like Mary did, and that is story hints. You get story hints for your people, you will find the same kind of thing. I saw what Mary had done because I was working on newspaper.com over the weekend, and I noticed it along with the stories that are coming up as hints. Somebody will post a story, a newspaper or an obituary, something else. So it's another way to find out who else is researching for that same person.
Yeah, we want to make those cousin connections. I guess the date of the clipping, not the clipping itself, but the date the clipper clipped may be relevant as well. So interesting. New ways to research. So let's think together about how we might deal with new topics to discuss. Hi, Lori. I hope you're feeling better. They emailed you. Lori is saying, let me read this. I also had a cousin who I tried to contact for 3 years, and then I contacted them by newspapers.com, and they finally emailed her back. Well, that's always exciting. We want to hear that. Okay. All right. So let us continue to do our research. Have a good week. Thank you for stopping by today. I enjoyed visiting with you all. And thank you for your thoughts. And maybe you'll email me at myrt@dearmyrtle.com with a topic that you would like us to discuss in the future. Now, Wednesday night for Wacky Wednesday, it's not Wacky Wednesday, it's Census Genie. That's a totally separate registration because it's going to become significant as we draw closer to the April 1st release of the 1950 U.S. federal census. And I will be with Heather Crafter on Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Isn't that when it is, Cousin Russ? Yep. And on Friday, I'm going to do a Myrt Journal Live in this same time period, but only for 30 minutes or so. I don't want to do long videos over there. And I will be talking about what content comes to mind when I'm making a journal. The actual process of creating a small journal to go with my baby picture. It's one of those naked baby pictures. When I'm making the journal, a lot of other stories come to mind. And it informs my decision as to what to write in that journal to go along with my baby picture. Gosh, now maybe that's what I'll have to do this week is the baby picture. All right, there's nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.